In the meantime, again, reaction to the fallout from these buses and special planes going to places north and the uproar it's causing. Brandon John is a little surprised, the National Border Patrol Council president. Brandon, I always love having you on because you put in perspective what you're seeing up front. And there is a bit of a double standard to this, is there not? We always try to be very fair, very balanced about this. So when we hear one side carping about something, we try to go back in time and see what they were saying about this very same issue when the president and ICE were obviously flying planes, hundreds of them, in the middle of the night, oftentimes, to destinations north, destinations all over the country. I think we have a map of that. Not a word, nothing. What do you make of that?
Yeah, you've always wanted to have a fair conversation. You want the American people to know what the actual facts are. And when you look at the actual facts, this White House made a conscious decision on what they were going to do with border security from day one when they stepped into the White House. They made decisions that destabilized our border. And because they destabilized our border, we're seeing people being transported throughout the entire United States. You look at these non-governmental organizations like Catholic Charities, they are receiving funding from the United States government, and they are transporting people throughout the United States. Now, when a governor does it, the White House is up in arms, but they don't talk about what they originally did and why this began in the first place. There are solutions. If there weren't solutions, then this White House might have an excuse, but there are solutions to what could be done to stop this this crisis at the border, but they're not doing anything. So now we're seeing millions of people enter the country illegally. We're seeing drugs at records that we've never seen before, deaths on the border that we've never seen before. There are records being set by this White House every single day, yet they refuse to look at what the problem is until the governors do what they're doing, and then it becomes an issue because the mainstream media has to cover it. That is hypocrisy, and it's unfortunate that we get this from the White House.
You know, Brandon, you were ahead of this, certainly ahead of it before many. Maybe they're not seizing on this because they don't see it as the crisis that you clearly do, and I think much of the modern world would clearly see. And maybe it's in their language. We sort of put some of these comments together, and you'll notice something that is missing and how what you're dealing with at the border doesn't come up. Take a look.
Migrants coming to and through D.C. are arriving from a range of nations.
Approximately 500 migrants have come to the city of Chicago since August 31st.
They're using desperate people who are trying to come here because they're fleeing communism themselves as a political pawn.
This country was built on immigrants and by immigrants, and we're going to honor the tradition born here in New York City. We are going to have open doors to them.
All right, immigrants, migrants, not illegal immigrants, not illegal migrants. There is a pattern to that. So if you don't see these 2+ million who've already entered through our border as anything less than illegal, you don't then see a problem, and you don't then see a reason to address it, do you?
Yeah, and that's the issue. When you look at the very first act that these people make, they are crossing the border illegally. That is a criminal act, yet they're not being prosecuted because this administration, again, has made a conscious decision. If you're not willing to define the issue, you're never going to come up with the solutions, and that's what they don't do. They're not calling this what it is. It is illegal immigration. It's not legal. We're all for legal immigration. We're against illegal immigration. It's the rule of law that made this country so great, and if we don't continue to enforce the rule of law, then we have chaos, and that's what we're seeing on the border today. It is chaos. When Mayor Lightfoot talks about 500 people coming to Chicago, look at Eagle Pass, Texas. Thousands of people every single day, yet Mayor Lightfoot is complaining about 500 people in Chicago. That's crazy, and that, again, it goes right back to the hypocrisy that we constantly see from this administration, and if you don't define the problem, if you're not willing to talk about it, you're not going to come up with solutions.
All right, thank you very much, Brandon. You put in perspective. We wanted to be very fair about this. Of course, if you look at the 1.5 million who already entered this country legally, and that is pretty much consistent, pretty much through any administration, that's how many we take in legally, year in and year out. And now you want to claim that the 2 million plus getting into this country illegally should not be so characterized. Then you're talking about taking in 3.5, 4.5, where does it end? 5 million. You got to look at the numbers, you got to look at the costs, you got to look at the reality. The fact of the matter is, if you're not going to call this what it is, how can you address a problem that is now out of control? So we'll keep exploring that. Also exploring crime. It is rampant across the country, but